The FBI raided Diddy's homes almost 4 months ago, but the aftershocks are still being felt to this day. Now, since them raids, the rappers faced a ton of new allegations. And of course, y'all can't forget the surveillance footage from that hotel.
What do you make of the idea that they're bringing in people who say he sexually assaulted me, he abused me to a grand jury in terms of what that can mean for an indictment?
Well, look, this is no surprise. I'm very cynical about what's happened here. I'm cynical that all of a sudden there was this kind of shock and awe search warrant raid, which literally was out of nowhere. Then I'm very cynical that somehow a surveillance tape in a hotel that had never come to pass for 8 years gets released sometime after that raid. Then I'm very cynical, and by the way, I know the other author of that article in the Rolling Stone, Nancy Dillon. I've known her for many years in her previous incarnations, but you then see that there is this story that comes out, and by the way, in between, there were several more leaks to CNN. The cynic in me says, why? And what is the one connected fiber of all of this is Homeland Security. Why would Homeland Security be leaking all of this stuff? Because either their witnesses are not telling them what they want to hear, call me a cynic, or they want to make sure that they destroy any chance of Diddy getting a fair trial, make sure that they make him a persona non grata so that he doesn't have a constituency or a demographic that would push back. So I readily admit I'm a defense lawyer, and that's the way I think. I readily admit that I've represented Sean for many years, but I will tell you this, Sean's organization is hardly a RICO organization. I have dealt with them on and off for over a decade. It is a multi-billion-dollar operation that is run with some people who are very talented, who have wonderful backgrounds, and are hardly running a RICO operation.
Now, if y'all ask one of Diddy's former lawyers, it's looking like the authorities are slowly taking the evidence that they found against Diddy public, starting with a surveillance video. Now, the big question is why? Now, that's just to make sure that the entire world knows the kind of person that he is before he goes on trial.
Trying to look inwards to how women are treated, and I'm talking specifically about the latest, about Sean Diddy Combs. You were on his last album. Are you also feeling that the idea of the abuse of women, domestic partner abuse, it needs to be really handled once and for all and not swept under the carpet as it has been for so long? Let's just say in your industry.
Oh, well, I was horrified by the allegations that I heard about Mr. Combs, and of course horrified by the video evidence that was released after that. But I was horrified by the descriptions that I read before the video evidence came out, and absolutely is something that needs to be brought to light when it happens. And my default stance is to believe women when they make these accusations, and to make sure that we do whatever we can to support women who are making these allegations, and make sure that they're heard, and that any kind of accountability and reparations can be made to make these women whole again. It's shameful what Mr. Combs has been accused of, and I only want the best for Cassie, but also for all the other victims that have alleged that he's abused them. It's really tough to see those descriptions and to see those videos. It's quite a shame, and I really just want accountability and hopefully some healing for all of his victims.
In the aftermath, tons of people have come out to talk about Diddy, expressing sympathy with all the people that he's abused throughout his career.
Puff's behavior, sadly, is not novel. It's not new.
Right.
It's just incredibly awful and egregious. I wish that there were ways to actually try to hold him accountable that don't just involve suing for money. We've seen the video. What he apologized for was the video.
Correct.
Right? Nothing else. Just the video.
He basically just provided context. He said he hit rock bottom.
I hit rock bottom.
What does that mean?
Well, the rock bottom is when you hook somebody's arm up,
right,
and then you guys go up together it usually
correct.
precedes the people's elbow.
And Diddy's half-baked apology has only made it even worse. Now, people now see him for the criminal that he is, realizing that he's got no remorse over any of his actions. Now, the public ain't afraid to call him out on his phony apology that had no mention of Cassie.
Jaden Smith took to Instagram to share a series of images of him inside of Diddy's tunnels. Underneath Diddy's mansion in Los Angeles and Miami, there are secret tunnels. Originally, it was built as sort of like an underground swimming pool, but Diddy drained it and began to create a network of pathways that connect to nearby points of interest. For example, one of the tunnels connects to Hugh Hefner's mansion nearby. But what's crazier is that he is literally using them to traffic kids for his FO parties. People say he would grab young girls and boys from the street using his sons as bait. Then these people would use the network of tunnels to transport these children unnoticed away from the prying eyes of paparazzi and the public. Jaden also leaked an image of the plans to build more.
But let's just say that his partners weren't the only people who was abused by Diddy, because turns out that the diddler had a thing for young artists, almost too young. And two of these young artists were Jaden Smith and Justin Bieber, who aren't afraid to come out about Diddy's dark secrets.
What do he need underground tunnels for? Is he preparing for doomsday? Or is he trafficking something through those tunnels? Is he traveling through those tunnels? Where do those tunnels lead to?
Very good question, Hassan Campbell. Very good question. Now, as journalists and bloggers started to look into the tunnels a little further, they started to uncover some hidden truths and some old community secrets, leading to speculation about their origins and potential connections to other famous properties. For example, the discovery of tunnels beneath P. Diddy's mansion is reminiscent of other similar underground networks that have been found beneath other historic estates, such as the Playboy Mansion, which is only an 8-minute walk from Diddy's house. And it's entirely plausible that these tunnels could be connected, serving as a hidden transportation system for the rich and famous.
Between the raids at Diddy's house and Jaden Smith's accusations, they started a brand new conversation about how Diddy committed his heinous crimes. And we all consider the fact that the Playboy Mansion was an 8-minute walk away from Diddy's home and was also reported to have a bunch of underground tunnels beneath it. Things just kind of start to add up a little bit.
Not hysterical, not frantic, not anxious, not fretful, but steady in the storm. Looks bad, looks tough, but remain steady in the storm.
Now, the fact that after the raids, Diddy posted a video on social media that showed a tunnel-like system with TD Jakes narrating in the background, was that really a coincidence after all the news about these underground tunnels beneath the property started coming out? Or is that more of an admission of guilt? Not to mention that Justin Bieber was spotted at these insane parties that Diddy used to host, where the debauchery would have no limits. Now, allegedly, Diddles would get Justin drugged and drunk and then pass him around for all of his friends to take advantage of.
Just like it wasn't seminal fluid that Justin Bieber was wiping away from his mouth when he brought his face up from Odell Beckham's groin in a club with Trey Songz on the lookout.
The images are there.
Diddy-fied. Hashtag no Diddy.
Hashtag no Diddy.
Now, the only mainstream celebrity who has actually spoken up about all this is Jaguar Wright, who has come out and talked about how Diddy played with Justin's life, ruining his career in the name of mentoring him.
You said Justin Bieber, and I have to ask you because there's a picture circulating online where they show
He's
Justin.
the new Tevin Campbell.
Yeah, they show him crying. You're almost giving him a gateway to speak his truth of what happened.
I wish Tevin Campbell would speak to him or for him. Because the same thing that they did to him, they're doing to Bieber right now. And I have evidence That poor kid. And all because he got discovered by Usher. And then Usher took him right over there to the diddler. And let the good times roll.
Let the good times roll.
The last freak off tape that just got sold on the dark net, which I know because I monitor, went for $500 million. It had multiple stars in it. Nicki Minaj, Rihanna, Chris Brown, Justin Bieber, Drake.
Now, she also talked about how we need to be pointing fingers at Usher, who was abused by Diddy himself, but still didn't hesitate before offering Justin Bieber up to the diddler as well, so that the cycle of abuse would just continue.
Now, another thing that, of course, you spoke on last time was, and at the time it happened, was a slap by Will Smith to Chris Rock. We spoke on it. But since then, Jada Pinkett has written a book where she reveals that multiple times she tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Not saying exactly what the reason was.
I don't know why she keeps trying. She just get it done. Don't be bad at everything.
Shit. Yeah.
You was an all right actress. You was a terrible wife. You was a bad mother. You was a kid who knew that your husband was doing things to boys and did stuff to your son, and you ain't do shit about it. Bilal told me everything.
Their good friend who
Bilal told me, Jaden. He told me that you knew Will was f***ing your child. Yes, he did. Wonder why he left that out of his Tasha K interview.
Yeah, in that interview, he said a lot. He said a lot.
He said everything but the thing that was important. That he know that Will Smith raped Jaden. He raped Bashir and he raped Neat Mills, and you know it, Bilal. Now I don't give no how far in the desert you run. You'll go from a Philly nigga to a sand, they'll still get you.
And not just that, she also has gone on the record to talk about how Jaden Smith was abused by his own father, while Jada watched and just let it all happen. And when Jada's starting to become too much for her to handle, she shipped him on over to Diddy to deal with.
Will Smith and Diddy destroyed this young singer's career, and some are saying they R-worded him like they allegedly did to Justin Bieber and Usher. So Bravery Gray is an American actor and rapper who suddenly disappeared from the spotlight and dropped some major hints it had to do with Diddy and Will Smith's mentorship. He is now suing them both over his experience, and because many people say he was allegedly R-worded by the duo, Bravery started to act out in disturbing ways, similar to how Justin Bieber did. On July 13th, 2020, Gray was arrested by police following an alleged DV incident with his wife. Then in May 24, 2021, he spent time in prison for allegedly putting his paws on her. So Jaguar Wright said she witnessed young boys run from Diddy's house screaming from these mentorships.
Now then again, Will Smith and Diddy have had a history of subjecting younger stars to abuse, like some sick kind of game that they like to play time and again. And honestly, y'all can tell that Diddy has influenced Justin and Jaden Smith beyond repair. Now, he's also introduced them to a life of sex and drugs, and the two young artists have found it difficult to pull themselves out of that life.
I decided to stop because I felt like I was dying. My security and stuff were coming into the room at night to check my pulse. Like, people don't know how serious it got. Like, it was legit crazy scary. I was waking up in the morning and the first thing I was doing is popping pills and smoking a blunt and starting my day, you know, so it just got scary. I basically said to myself, I'm like, God, if you're real, you get me through this season of stopping these pills and stuff, and if you do, I'll do the rest of the work. And then I did that, and then I was good from there, but I never did the actual work. I got off the pills, but I never went to the root of everything. So then I just like kind of circle back around, which most people do.
Now, Justin has also recently opened up about how bad the situation actually was. And while he's never come out and blamed Diddy directly, everybody knows who introduced the Biebs to all that nastiness. And of course, Jaden Smith seems to have gone down the same path, where his use of drugs eventually got the best of him, too.
When we said we wanted to bring him to the table, I was like, well, what do you want to talk about? He said, mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah.
The magic kind, of course.
Yeah.
Jaden Smith joins his mom, Jada Pinkett Smith, and grandma, Adrienne Banfeld Norris, on Red Table Talk. And they're talking magic mushrooms, people.
But since it's my mom, it's like, it's my mom. We're working together.
On the latest episode of the Facebook Watch series, the fam talks about the plant medicine that some say is a miracle treatment for mental health.
I was introduced to plant medicine 10 years ago to deal with my depression, and it knocked it out.
Something Jada says she can speak to from personal experience.
What it does, unlike just going to therapy and putting people on Prozac, right? Which I did that too.
Which that is not successful for so many people.
And that's the thing. So for me, I had struggled with depression for so long. Crippling depression. So the thing about the plant medicine is that not only does it help you feel better, but it helps you solve the problems of how you got there in the first place.
It started as pure curiosity.
Yeah.
The 23-year-old added that he started using the drugs out of curiosity, and doing so led to his understanding of what ego was for the first time.
It was always in my head talking, telling me what I was and what I wasn't. And for the first time, I had like a ego dissolution where I was like, that was the moment that really changed me. You get to a place in your life where you're blocked by something, whether it's a trauma, whether it's your emotions, your ego, not being able to express yourself. And then I feel like psychedelics are a way to tear down that wall and see what's beyond it. Doing it guided with people that are professionals, I feel like really increases the chances of having that mystical experience.
And get this, Jaden's mom actually knew that her son was abusing psychedelics all this time. And instead of getting him help, she made a joke out of it on her show.
On the video that Puff had ran into Justin Bieber, and he started tapping him as if he was searching him and see if he had some kind of device on. Check this out. What if the federal government have already talked to Justin Bieber and Diddy did that on tape? That means in his mind, he think this person may be a witness. What he has just done that is against the law, tampering with a federal witness. If they have already talked to Justin Bieber prior to him doing that, he goes and look like he's searching him. It appears that he's asking Justin Bieber, yo, you got a wire or something like that? Like, you're tampering with a federal witness. That's a charge right there that can land him in jail.
Now, according to Gene Deal, Justin Bieber might be a huge part of the lawsuit against Diddy. In fact, Diddy actually suspected Justin of being a key witness in his case, which is why he's once caught on camera checking Justin for any kind of recording devices.
When I used to see him swing, it was always with him, another dude, and two girls. Was swinging with other people. You know what I'm saying? He always had other girls in the room or another guy in the room. When he was in the room with Sarah and her girlfriend, and he had Ja Rule and him in the room. So they was doing anything freaky until Ja came out and said, yo, y'all didn't want to be in there because there's a lot of freaky things going on. Top in the game, in the music business. And they had said to me, yo, I had to suck a lot of to get to this position. But he was an individual that preyed on this young girl.
But it wasn't just Justin and Jaden. Turns out that Diddy liked to swing the other way quite often. Now, some of the people closest to him have seen Diddy engage in sexual activity with a bunch of dudes and recording the entire thing at his freak-offs.
I didn't think I was going to ever see a video like this.
I heard abuse whispers. So
Really?
I was thinking, yeah.
I heard gay. I'd never heard porn. I always heard gay.
Gay nonstop. And that was enough. People were like...
That's because of Wendy Williams.
What'd you say?
Oh, that was Wendy. Wendy's whole thing was Diddy was gay since the 90s.
She knew, dog.
No, Wendy was
We owe
throwing that
Wendy
out
an
there.
apology.
That's why Wendy got fired from Hot 97. Wendy got fired from Hot 97 by Diddy because that's when Bad Boy was smoking hot.
Wow.
And yeah, she got fired for putting that out there. Like,
Do you think that Diddy held on to the gay rumors so that people didn't know what he really was? Yeah.
Ooh.
Because that's the perfect smokescreen. You'd rather people think you're gay than beat women.
And by the way, here's the wild thing. We still don't know what Diddy is.
I mean, we
That's
know a
the thing.
little.
We know little. We know bits and pieces.
Yeah.
This shit might be deeper than rap. We don't know. Like, this
The
might be a
rabbit hole
whole
gets
rabbit
pretty-
hole. You might be like, oh shit.
But
seeing this. That's what I was trying to get at this whole time.
Okay, so-
That is the wildest story that came out of a lot of this.
But anytime anybody tried to call him out for hiding his sexuality, Diddy would make sure that they would shut up forever. Don't believe it? Just look at what happened to Wendy Williams.
What's interesting is that when I was doing research on this and was looking at the footage the day after the raids at the house, one of the neighbors was driving by and he was yelling at the people who were like video recording. He was like, they have kids come here, like busloads of kids, like underage kids every night. Then he was like yelling at the cameras like, I see this as their neighbor all the time. They have underage kids like coming by the busload every night. And then I heard somebody say in another video, they were like, oh yeah, it was just a civilian who was like, oh yeah, Hugh Hefner's house is right next door. And then a light bulb went off in my mind and I was like, oh shit, that's fucking crazy, because you know who else was doing a huge sexual blackmail operation from the 60s onward? Was Hugh fucking Hefner, the Playboy guy. He would have these giant parties with celebrities and politicians and athletes and all these people coming over to his house doing a shitload of drugs with a shitload of like the world's most beautiful women. And then he would invite them to his room where he would sit and film them all having drug-fueled orgies, sometimes like with prostitutes off the street, with animals. And he was filming this all, and he had a huge closet in his house filled with tapes.
Considering all this, people aren't missing out on how similar Diddy's crimes are to the crimes of people like Hugh Hefner and Epstein and Weinstein. So could it just be that this whole sex ring Diddy was running was part of a bigger operation? Because they're kind of looking that way.
You won't see Puffy flying standby. When he flies, he takes his Gulfstream jet.
And when Diddy flies, he brings his friends with him.
He called me one time, I was in the middle of a meeting. He's like, don't say anything out loud, but at 6 o'clock, you're getting on the plane, you're coming to Saint-Tropez.
In 2003, P. Diddy rented the 181-foot Southern Cross in Saint-Tropez. This luxury yacht has 7 deluxe cabins, jacuzzis with gold fixtures, a gym, and a hydraulic launch pad for the helicopter. The incredible weekly cost, $400,000.
It was like 3 or 4 levels. I mean, when he showed me the brochure for it, it looked like a penthouse apartment. Like, I was like, this actually floats on the water.
He is the Hugh Hefner of hip-hop parties.
Puffy is definitely a party boy. When he goes out, he hits all the latest hot spots and will literally make the drinks for you. He wants to make sure that everybody has a good time.
P. Diddy will buy dozens of bottles of the most expensive champagne and just walk around and hand them out to patrons he doesn't even know.
And when it comes to throwing parties, nobody throws it down like Diddy.
You've never been to any party until you've been to a Puff Daddy party. From the crystal flowing to the naked girls hanging from the ceiling.
Because, let's be real, y'all. Diddy has been exposed to non-consensually drug people at his parties for years now. Now, everybody knows that this has been a regular occurrence at these jams, but nobody ever stopped him or called him out on doing it neither.